Welcome to the BAM Pod.
Take the plunge and jump into new favorites at Black Bear Diner. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we've got you covered.
Good old-fashioned family food, Black Bear Diner.
All right, welcome in, everybody. It is the last podcast of the year. 2026 is coming hard, coming fast. And tonight, I looked out there and I said, you know what? It's getting cold. We better go to somebody and talk to them about two things. One, how to catch fish in the cold. And two, are they looking forward to next year's BAM Trail? So I brought in Mr. Mark Pilgrim. Mark, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks, Ed. I'm glad to be on.
It's been a little while. We've had you on before, but it's been a while since you've been on. And, you know, you live up on one of the premier smallmouth lakes. And one of the things is we just talked, you know, last week when I called you, when I called you about this, getting on the show, you said it had snowed like a foot of snow up there. It is cold. You know how to go out there and catch fish in the cold. It's a cold body of water. It's one of those things. There's a lot of smallmouth in it and that sort of stuff. So it's one of those ones that, you know, you just seem like the right fit for this time of year. We've got Shasta coming up. And the nice thing about it is he was on the water on Shasta all day today. So we're going to get some nice, you know, talking about that and listen to, he's not going to tell you how he caught fish though. I got news for you. We got upcoming tournaments, like a bunch of them. So it is that time of year, but Mark, let's talk a little bit about, you know, we'll start talking about cold water fishing. I mean, you're going to be catching spotted bass going instead of your traditional smallmouth that you love to go after. We're going to go after spotted bass. What is it like fishing cold water this time of year, and how do you kind of adapt and make changes to actually go out there and catch some fish?
You know, it's really different, you know, on the different bodies of water. But you know, up here at Almanor, it's a weird transition. You know, it's the fish here. You know, I think they really like the cold water. You know, it's majority of smallmouth, but I have caught a lot of largemouth here this year, which is kind of weird. And I didn't catch largemouth until later in this fall season, so that was kind of a little different. But yeah, you know, the fish up here really they stay pretty shallow until end of October into November, and they start to make that transition. We saw them move out a little bit earlier this year, you know, when you guys were up here for the championship. I think that was in the third week of September. But those fish had already started to transition a little bit. And, you know, once they start that transition, they move out and they generally don't move back. And I was able to find them all the way through last week, really, before we had the storm, in pretty shallow water, you know, up here, which was kind of cool. And the bigger ones definitely moved out, you know, and staged off points, trying to get down to that, you know, 55 degree water temperature. Our surface temperature up here has been, you know, in the mid to low 40s. So they just kind of school up out there on those points and in that deeper water and feed heavily until it gets, you know, really, really cold. You know, Shasta's a lot different. It's that place can really be tough this time of year. And, you know, last year we fished it in January, and it was either hit or miss. You know, a lot of guys did good, but a lot of guys, you know, didn't do very well. And this year I think is going to be a lot better. That water's coming up. We had that heavy rain last week, and that lake has come up about 30 feet. And it's actually still pretty warm. I was down there today, like you said, and water temperature was 55 degrees still, little muddy, and it's come up a ton. And those fish, you know, just move up and they stay in that shallow water, and they're, you know, they're a whole different breed down there. Those spots do crazy things, and you know, it's a lot different going down there. It's an adjustment. And being a smallmouth guy, it's tough. It takes me a little bit longer to figure them out, but definitely got on them pretty good today.
It's one of those things that are small. You know, I think people think, you know, smallmouth spotted bass, are they so different? You know, they're both a native river fish. They're both one that likes the colder water in and I look at it and say spotted bass have really been the savior of California because if you were only trying to catch largemouth this time of year, there probably wouldn't be that many tournaments.
Exactly.
It's not exactly the easiest fish to catch. But you go down there, and you're looking at spotted bass. Um, I know there are a few smallmouth in there. Is that something you would just not target, or is something you would just like? They're not enough there.
You know what? Every time I go down there, I always try and hit those little areas where I've caught smallmouth before, but they're so hard to catch in that lake. It's you could go down there and try and catch one. It's like catching a largemouth up here. If you catch one,
Right.
you're going to be lucky. But if you go down there and you're going to hunt for smallmouth, they're really tough to catch. They I think they hang out with those spots, but there's so many 2 pound spots in that lake that I think it's hard to catch them just because there is so many of those cookie cutter
Yeah.
spots that they're pretty easy to catch.
That lake has been known for, like you just said, the cookie cutter 2 pound fish, pound and a half, 3 pound, big ones like 4 pounds. Now, Alex Neapas came in a few years back and said, no, that's not right. And he dropped some big weight on the scale. He went after, I know we got some largemouth, I know we got some big spots. This time of year, that's when those, Alex is, if you don't know who he is out there, if you're listening right now, Alex is actually known pretty well about being a big swim bait guy. Like he goes out, those big swim baits, risks it all, takes what it takes. He's an absolutely heck of an angler, anyways. But that's what he's pretty much known for. I think I want to say. Is that something that reaches into your arsenal? And when you think about it this time of year, Mark, when you go out to Shasta, you're like, maybe I should start and try that. Is that something you look at, or is it just like, are you more traditional style baits?
Um, no, definitely. I tend to throw big baits quite a bit. I definitely don't catch them like Alex does. I mean, he's definitely got that place figured out for sure. I do have a couple of fish over 10 pounds. I've caught, largemouth I've caught in there. And I've caught, probably a dozen, over eight. Majority of those fish came off of smaller baits, closer to spring, pre-spawn. But yeah, they're out there. I saw some today cruising around on my forward-facing sonar, and it's just tough to get them to eat. And like I said, like you said it, Alex has got that place figured out, and a couple other lakes too. He's just got the knack to catch those things. And one of these days, I'd like to take a ride with him and watch what he does. But it's yeah, I know. I throw a lot of big baits down there, and I have caught some big ones on those baits in the wintertime. But for me, it's just been hit and miss. And when you don't have the confidence in throwing those, especially on those kind of like that body of water at Shasta, it's just going back to the traditional baits and trying to you know now with forward facing sonar, we're getting right, getting that bait right in
Right.
front of your face, and you will catch a lot more fish now that you can see them, on a screen. But I did that today. I ended up catching three fish, over 4 pounds, and I saw every fish that I caught. So without the forward facing, I probably wouldn't have caught those fish.
Is it such a thing right now that we just had our kayak angler of the year on here, Joey Silva, last show, and he talked about, and I'm always going to get this wrong because I just don't. It's something strolling. Um, is that something that you do when you're looking at this forward-facing sonar? I don't know. I don't know what it's called again. I know I did the same thing to him. I'm like, I can't remember because I never. It's nothing I've ever done, so it's not something that's in my arsenal of vocal arsenal either. So, is that something that you do though? Is it something that you is that the key to forward-facing sonar?
Absolutely. And I use mine probably 90% of the time on the water is spent, top water fishing using my forward
Mm,
facing,
okay.
up here where I live. I use it quite a bit at Shasta, and up until a couple years ago, I never really got into the whole strolling thing, and but you gotta adapt and learn. You see all these young anglers now, coming into the sport, and they're looking at a screen and they're just absolutely smashing them out there. And you can only watch that for so long before you go,
Right.
hey, you know what? You jump on Tackle Warehouse and order some baits. So no, definitely. I started this year really, buckling down and figuring out some different baits and using my forward facing more to utilize, strolling techniques. And
Okay.
I think I finally got it figured out. I did it a lot today, and man, I can't tell you how many fish you catch doing that. And it does get a little, tedious at times where you try and switch between baits, sizes of baits, but I think I've got it down to a science now. So I'm hoping that helps me out, in 2026.
Yeah. We've got a few tournaments coming up there at Shasta. It's kind of the premier lake this time of year in California, and guys coming down from other states to actually do it too. It's kind of like Clear Lake in the fall, or Clear, for championships. It's Shasta is what you kick off tournaments at, and I feel like so many different organizations do that, and BAM's one of the same. Um, as far as catching fish this time of year in the cold, is it all? Can you still do? I guess not high speed fishing, but can you do reaction fishing still? Is it still like if you're going to go out there, you're telling a guy, it's like, hey, I'm going to go to Shasta and I want to do some fishing. What are you telling them to green? Just something you can drag, something and you got to remember, not everybody has forward facing sonar.
Uh,
So, if you're talking to the average guy that didn't go out and spend the money on the forward facing, he's just going to go fishing. I mean, what would you tell somebody this time of year to like go do, guys? Hey, go pick up a worm, go pick up a crankbait. What do they do?
yeah, definitely. And it all depends on, conditions, and what the weather's done in the last, week or 2 weeks. It's, like I said, every time we go to Shasta, it seems like we get into that, you know, that like a transition where it's calm and no rain, all of January, or December and January. We don't get much, precipitation, and then all of a sudden we show up down there and it rains for 2 days before the tournament, and and kind of messes things up. But no, definitely, I think that big baits this time of year and reaction baits are key,
Okay.
especially when we get a heavy rain like we just got, and you've got the water level coming up. When the water's coming up 2 feet a day, those fish are going to move up and they're going to eat.
Hmm.
And it really doesn't matter what you throw out there; they're going to eat it. If you throw a big bait out there and you throw it across the big one, odds are you're going to catch it. So I wouldn't deter people from throwing a big bait this time of year. I've seen a lot of tournaments won at Shasta on on reaction spinner bait, glide baits, in December, January, and February. So um, it's one of my go-to baits. Those bigger baits I really like throwing this time of year.
When I feel like most people go out and they want to catch fish this time of year, it seems like, oh, I want to take a quarter ounce weight, put a worm on it, and drag it on the bottom as slow as I can go. And you're saying, and basically because I asked the question, but the reaction bait is still something that can go out there. I mean, it's spinner baits, crankbaits, those things still work this time of year. And guys, maybe you can tell, as a people, hey, don't be afraid to throw that sort of thing, because I think people get into that necessary, they don't get to go out and fish as much as you. Maybe they get once, maybe they get twice a month. They can get to go out and go fishing. And I feel like they don't know this is such a tough time of year to get those fish to bite. But we also are talking about spotted bass, so it is different like that. But just saying, yeah, you can go out there and you can catch fish on reaction and have some fun still.
Absolutely. And just a little like today, I went out and I had 8 rods on my deck today, and I planned on going out and just I had a minnow tied on and a spinnerbait, and into the first 30 minutes I had 8 rods on the deck, from a minnow to a jig, spinnerbait, a glide bait, and I caught fish on everything that was on my deck.
Hmm.
So It's finding the right areas and and keying in on the right water. All the creeks are running down there right now, and even the small creeks after that rain we had last week, the fish are just moving. They're feeding, and it's a fun time. I mean, if anybody wants to go out there right now and they don't have any confidence in throwing a big bait like a glide or a big swim bait. They've never caught a fish on one of those baits. I think right now, this week, and it's supposed to start raining, I think again tomorrow or the next day, but I think that's key. If you don't have confidence in one of those baits, tie one on and go throw it for the next week. I guarantee you're going to catch one.
Okay. Whopper ploppers.
What the flock are you waiting for? California's newest luxury entertainment destination, Chicken Ranch Casino Resort, is ready to play. Experience laid-back luxury in our modern hotel, a casino floor with views of the Sierra, and diverse restaurants and bars that'll keep you squawking for more. Experience the all-new Chicken Ranch Casino Resort, located just 60 minutes from Yosemite National Park. Visit playchickenranch.com to book your trip today.
What's funny? What's funny
was it
is,
on your deck today? That's all I got to know.
That was not on my deck today. But I can tell you that 2 years ago, I got on a topwater bait throwing a whopper plopper in January. It was pretty incredible. It was just a school I found, and they were chasing a bait ball, and it didn't matter what I threw at them. And I thought, I'm going to throw a whopper plopper on there, and I chucked it out there and caught a couple good fish. So it was pretty funny.
This is the upcoming year. We got 2026. We've got 2 years behind us when it comes to the BAM Trail. We have gone through some ups and downs. We've had great times. We've had tougher times. We've had technical difficulties. But Mark has persevered through it all, and he keeps putting out good circuits. And this year he made a bunch of changes. You are one of our Super 60 anglers, man, and that is you are a part of an elite group for sure. In our pro-ams this year, Mark has made some serious changes. He has put some big dollars up for those guys, in a brand new Vexus boat will be sitting in the parking lot at every one of those events, and somebody is taking that thing home. Looking forward to 2026, the pro-ams, the Super 60. The schedules are absolutely amazing. From what I don't get to fish them, I just get to drive to them or fly to them. And I look at it and I go, wow, these guys have been, everybody that I've talked to so far has been absolutely excited. How are you feeling about this upcoming year with the BAM Trail? And talk a little bit about it, because last year you didn't get to fish on your home water for the championship. That had to sting just a little bit, and I sorry I had to bring it up, but I had to.
I knew you were going. I knew you were going to.
But it was one of those things. It's like pushing forward, man. Is this tournament circuit, the Super 60, the Pro-Ams, is this going the way you want to see it go?
Yeah, definitely. Mark's done a great job, and you can't please 100% of the people all the time. You're going to get people that complain about certain events and how things are running, but I think he's making decisions that are beneficial for the business and the anglers. I think the anglers are his number one focus, and it's always been that way. Mark wants us to succeed. He wants us to catch fish, number one. You go out and film a Super 60 event and nobody catches fish. That doesn't make for very good TV. So it's I think the schedule is amazing. I kind of look back to the first year and what we did, and then last year, kind of the way the schedule lined out, and I like the pro-am schedule. I think it's set up pretty good. I'm glad that the Columbia River events flip-flopped, having the Super 60 fish it in July now, and then in August, I think, for the pro-ams. So that to me works out better. the pro-am schedule, I'm planning on fishing all the events if I can. And Don Pedro, I've I tell you, I struggled there this year. And it's one of those lakes that, I've cashed checks there and I've done horrible there. And I had a bad event there this year. And I tell you, right after that event, I went back there.
Hmm.
And I just said, I'm going to figure this place out. I got to learn it better. And yeah, I managed to figure out some really good water. And we're fishing it this year, at exactly the time that I want to fish it. So that works out good. I can't wait for that Don Pedro event, for the Pro-Am series. That one fits right in my wheelhouse, and I'm chomping at the bit to get back there in September. I want to win an event there so bad, and yeah, that one is going to be good. The Super 60 schedule, for me is, man, it's just it's perfect.
Yeah.
Havasu, one of those places that I know it pretty well, so I'm glad we're going there. And whether we were at Havasu or Mojave, I would have loved to gone back to Mojave and fish that again. But Havasu for me works really good. Like I said, I've spent a lot of time on that water. My parents used to live there, so I've spent a lot of time there. Brownlee is good. I think that's going to be one of those places. I've never been there, but
Yeah.
I'm watching videos and stuff on it, and man, it looks like one of those places where you can go there and catch 50 fish a day. It's just, hopefully we can get into some bigger fish there. That'll be an exciting event. Being a smallmouth guy, I'm hoping I can go there, and do pretty well. The Columbia River in July, that's going to be, that's goes back to that July. That's when I
Right.
fished well there. So I'm glad that we're going back there in July. That one works really good. And then Don Pedro in October.
Right.
So Don Pedro in October, I think is still going to be really good. I think September all the way through November, that place is just phenomenal. So that sets up really good, and I think the schedule across the board sets up really well for me. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to 2026.
Yeah, there's going to be some spreading out a little bit. I mean, we'll be traveling a little bit more. I think there was a Moses Lake on there, which I believe is a pro am event. My calendar's sitting out on the couch right now, so I don't know all of them.
Yeah, there's a Moses. Yeah, Moses Lake is in May.
Yeah,
On that on that Pacific Northwest side.
and that's another one that's like I've never been there either, and I think, but I've heard about it, and like you said, Brownlee, the same thing. It's like I've heard about them. I think they're going to be great fisheries, but it's going to be interesting to see what we do when we take the best anglers on the West Coast, the best anglers in the Pacific Northwest. And I hope this year that the Pacific Northwest shows up. I mean, I'm not bagging on them too much, but I'm bagging on them a little bit because, I really feel like not Pothole Lake, that thing, Potholes was one of those ones that I'm glad for the gentleman that won the whole thing, but I feel like it was even the people that fished it, where they just went, where is everybody? You
Yeah.
guys want a big event up there? We're bringing a big event up there. Show up. Let's do this thing. I think that's the only thing this year that I'm really hoping happens is that they really take it serious.
Yeah, I think I think they will. I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of those guys, show up and fish events, and to have three events, just up there in the Pacific Northwest instead of having those guys travel. You're going to see a big turnout this year, I think. Last year that was all, offered to them, and it was kind of like a startup thing for those guys, and they've got a great schedule. There's no reason for them not to show up. I know I'm going,
Yeah.
to some of these events, so yeah, I can't wait
just
to get out there and do it.
just to get out, travel, and see a bunch of events. I think that's one of the neat things that this does is it does open up the two lakes and bodies of water that we just don't fish a lot of people. Mark, is opening up the eyes of people to what the West really has to offer. I mean, everybody sees, the Gunnersvilles and they see the Florida fishing and that sort of thing. And if you ever fish those lakes, they're really tough fishing. That's not even, you come out here and you just talked about Brownlee and it's like, oh, I might be able to go out and catch 50 fish a day. There's something to be said for, I don't want to
I've
say the ease of it all, but the fun of it all.
I've always wanted to go to Brownlee. Never had the opportunity. So, I when I heard that that was going to be on the schedule, yeah, I was pretty excited about that one. There's a couple of lakes up there in Idaho that I think would be fun.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
Door Shack would be fun. There's a bunch of different places that I'm just glad that we're mixing it up a little bit and going to some different places this year. So
Well, the West
spot
Coast, the what they we call it the West Coast, but I mean, the whole West it's wide open to some really, really good lakes out there, and I think that that's something that this is going to highlight. I know I just finished the voiceover work for all of the Delta. Our championships are coming up next, but we have the Delta and that sort of thing. So it's like that was really interesting to see that again. But so I know that new show's coming out, so to see next year, and it's like there's going to be some really cool events that he gets to video and make a TV show with.
I think so. I think there's going to be a lot of fish caught next year. So and excuse me, yeah, those guys from the Pacific Northwest too. Those guys can fish. So
Oh yeah.
I can't wait to see those guys show up on their home waters up there and really see what those guys are capable of doing. And when they come down here and kick our butts, it's yeah, I'd like to go up there and be able to compete with those guys on their water. So
Oh
uh,
yeah.
Moses Lake, I think, is one of those places. I've never been to Moses or Potholes. I've been around them, but I've never been to either one. I didn't get to fish Potholes last year, and yeah, I'd like to fish that one this year. And they're I think what Moses Lake feeds Potholes. They're neighboring waters, so I think they're both phenomenal fisheries from what I've seen, and of course Columbia River. Those are
Right.
every time we do an event at the Columbia River, I'm going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, we've got, like you said, there's some really amazing. I think guys like Ron Mace came out. He won one on the Columbia there. You got Ty Manarola. What an amazing young angler. All the future in the world ahead of that guy, man. He's got nothing but good coming to him. I mean, when you start off like Aaron Martins and only win seconds, you're starting out right.
I know, I know, I know. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, two unbelievable anglers right there. And
Well, what's funny is and I don't want to say Ron's really old, but he's really old. And then you got Ty Manarola is really young coming to this sport, and Ron still wins one, and Ty's just back there like, he wanted that one too. But and then you got guys, when you got Tyler Madden in there. I mean, that kid is just he was just on the show recently too. And we talked to him. What an amazing talent that is. You guys are on the Super 60. I mean, you guys are fishing against some really good up and comers. You're fishing against some old grizzled veterans. I mean, we got old guys like Greg Gutierrez in there.
that's
He's going to
funny.
be down on that water, and I don't know. The guy can still flat out win them. So it's a tough
Exactly.
one. Mark, you've been doing this a while. I'm not saying you're old or anything like that. You're still a young whippersnapper as far as some of these guys are concerned. But
Yeah,
it's a tough one to see a lot of these younger guys coming up, man. You cannot back down on this events. On these Super 60 events, you guys cannot back down. These guys are too good.
you can't. I mean, you can't give these guys an inch. And and the thing is they all fish clean. These guys are amazing. Watching them. And even Ron Mace. I mean,
Right.
he fished the last day of the champion or the Columbia River event on Super Sunday or Championship Sunday, and he was fishing in shallow water, and he was fishing in some garbage. I mean, if you would, I fished right next to him, and if you would have seen the stuff he was fishing in, he fished clean that last day, and I don't know how he landed every fish that he got in the boat because he was in some junk. And
Yeah.
for him to be fishing light line, and get those fish in the boat, it's a talent,
Right.
and being on a body of water like that, you've got to know it. And he definitely knows that place. And it doesn't matter if he's fishing Tri Cities or or Boardman or Arlington. I mean, he's got that place dialed, and yeah, he's definitely got some wins under his belt, and some knowledge. He's a
Yep.
great angler.
We're going to take a short commercial break and talk to you about one of our great sponsors, StoreQuest Self Storage. They're here to help you get your garage back. As an outdoor enthusiast, you have gear, lots of expensive gear, equipment, boats, trailers, and vehicles, probably all stored in your garage. You need a storage space that's easy to access, secure, and climate controlled. And that's where StoreQuest comes in. Head over to storequest.com. Plus, members receive an exclusive 10% discount with the offer code BAM10. That's BAM 10. StoreQuest is the official self-storage partner of the BAM Tournament Trail. Now, back to the BAM Pod.
Well, it says something. You've got Brian Smith out there who won an event this year at the Delta. You've got some just really good guys, and now you've got Ty. What is it? Ty Ayu? Is that I don't know how you
Yeah,
pronounce that one.
yeah.
He's
Ty Al.
Ty Al. That's it.
Yeah.
He's showing up. There are some people that are seeing this and going, "Wait a minute. I got an invitation, and I passed up on it because I didn't know it was going to be. Now we're here, and it's like, no, I can't pass up on this thing." There's just more talent coming out here, and they're willing to try their best. And I always give the guys back there, Fred Rambanis and guys that I've known for years, and it's like, so you guys are just Eastern fishermen now. You can't come out and you can't compete with the West anymore. You're not good enough. I give that.
Yeah.
And I know it, and it's a little bit of me haggling them, and a little bit of me just like, you know what? Maybe you're not. Maybe you can't do it anymore. Because they don't come. They don't try to come out and fish some of the waters that they grew up fishing anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that that went back there, and are probably I'm not going to say they're kicking themselves by going back there and doing
No.
and staying back
Well,
there.
that's where the money was forever, right?
That's exactly. And a lot of guys are tied into sponsorships back there and partnerships with companies, and can't leave to come back. But I think there's a lot of guys that wish that this would have come around 10 years ago. They would have never left. So yeah, I don't want them to come back. They can stay back in the East. But no, just like you said, there's I was going to say a handful of guys that are just hammers, but there's 70 guys that are fishing this thing that are like, I mean, you can't slip up, and you got to fish clean, and you got to have great days every single day on the water, and it's fishing at this level, with this kind of competition is number one. It's super fun. I mean,
right.
To be able to be on the water, fishing with these guys it's an honor for one, but to be able to compete and be competitive against them is pretty, it's pretty spectacular, and it's fun, and it makes you want to get out of bed every day and go do it.
It's one of those things. I think I don't want to say maybe it is, but when you're growing up, you have idols in everything you look at. Whether you're looking at baseball, football, growing up, but in bass fishing, it was, for me, it was Shaw Grigsby. I mean, that's who I grew up watching and seeing. And I wish I'd have known about these things, back then. But now kids are going to be looking up, and they're going to know that name. They're going to see Mark Pilgrim up there, and they're going to be like, that. I want to fish like that guy. I want to be in it. How does that make you feel? Being in a sport now on the West Coast, that young kids can come up saying, you know what, I'm going to fish like that guy, or I want to be like that guy, or I want to, stop at the gas station when I see him filling up. I want his autograph. I want to know that guy. I want to be doing that thing. And just what you said, it's like, it's an honor to fish with him. Well, there are plenty of people out there saying the same thing about fishing with you, man.
Yeah, it's kind of different, and I don't think of myself that way. Every time I go out, I'm just I'm me. But yeah, it's kind of neat, to be able to be an inspiration for for the youth, and to be recognized is kind of cool. Just like you said. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been on the road or at a gas station where somebody goes by and they're yelling my name out a car window when they drive by, and waving.
Those are policemen. You got to pull over.
Yeah, exactly. Slow down. So it's no, it's cool, and just getting the exposure, and being able to, for me, it's always been about our youth and the kids, and 50% of the people that I take out on guide trips now are generally youth. I mean, I try and take a parent and a 5-year old or a 7-year old or 10-year old. You know, if I can get a a 10-year old kid to catch a dozen 4-pound smallmouth in a day, it's something they're never going to forget. And and be able to teach the kids to learn something new, get away from a computer and playing video games. I mean, to me, it's just that's my happy place. I've donated so many trips this year where I mean, if a kid jumps on my boat, I'm going to take them out and and just see them smile. So for me, that, like I said, that's my element. That's my happy place. And when I'm not fishing tournaments, that's what I'm trying to do.
That's, and I think there is nothing better than, taking the youth out and teaching them and showing them and giving them an avenue of someplace to go down through. This is one of those sports where it's not quite like baseball or basketball or football, where the odds of you ever doing it as a professional are very slim. You dedicate yourself to this sport and you can 100% do it. It is attainable now. And on the West Coast, with the way that BAM is growing and the way that Mark has, been doing this, it is 100% attainable to be a professional angler on the West Coast right now. And I hope in the future. The other side of that too is that this whole college, the high school, I mean, none of that stuff was around. When I was a kid, there was none of this. But I look at it and I go, we gave away what, $100,000 scholarship to a young gentleman this year that I'm telling you right now, if he keeps fishing the way he's fishing, none of you are going to want to compete against this kid. He is absolutely amazing the way he breaks down water and goes out there and does this thing. But we've given away good money. Mark gave away good money this year, gave great opportunities. And I would love to see those things come, even more in the future. But I also want to ask you about the Observer program. It's something that I've seen for years. People have been a part of for years. We've had it on, BASS has had it, FLW's had it, MLF has had it. What did you think about it this year when you got to fish with, in a Super 60 events and you get, championship day and you're fishing with an observer out there? Was it something quality for you? Was it something you liked, didn't like?
You know what? I think the observer program is I think it works. I would like to see an observer on the boat at every day of the event for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
I think getting the extra, video, the pictures, photos, whatever we need for film, and just having that person on the boat. Granted, there is days where you had adverse weather and wind, and you're constantly thinking about, instead of running 80 miles an hour to your spot, you got to calm it down a little bit. You're running 40 miles an hour instead, just to, you thinking of somebody else. But I've been in the situation before where I've had, observers in different events, and I think it's a good thing, and you got guys that want to learn, that don't want to fish pro-ams. They want to be able to go out on the weekend, and they're weekend fishermen. They want to get better. They might want to fish, a pro-am next year
Mm-hmm.
and see what it's all about. And I think it's a good experience to have that guy on the boat just to check it out, see what you're doing, um, you know, learn a little bit, and maybe get out there and gain the experience and the knowledge, and feel a little more comfortable about jumping on the back of a boat with somebody else, in a pro-am event, and starting a career to try and work towards maybe being in the Super 60 someday.
Yeah, this year, I've done quite a few shows now, about and talking with some of our amateurs, some of our, our future front seaters, our future, however you want to say them, because there are guys out there, that's what they want to be. They love being the am side of the pro-ams, the Chuck Cavros guys like that, who have made big names and done great and done some amazing things doing what they do out of the back of the boat. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. It is still one of the toughest things to do, is to go out there and be successful behind guys like yourself, behind Greg Gutierrez, behind, all these big names, the Ishman Rose, the Ken Maws, the Bryant Smiths, the Marty Lawrence. I mean, all these guys, you got to go out and try to compete behind these guys. Now they all fish pro-ams, so they come out and do it. And you draw one of these guys and you're thinking, I'm so lucky until you go and you fish behind them. I did it for years and it's like, yeah, it's great and it's fun, but man, does it feel hurt sometimes. You go out and fish behind these guys, but that's what you got to do. I think as the observer program, it's kind of like, yeah, I didn't have to fish behind them, but now I understand what it is to see these big name guys and what they do. I feel a little more confident. Like I think
Exactly.
saying,
Exactly.
Going out
Yeah.
there and fishing as a pro-am. It's like, hey, maybe I will try that now.
Yeah, and I think it works. If somebody can build a confidence to, want to be able to jump on a boat and go out and do it, I more power to them. I think it works. And yeah, I mean, and going back to the co-angler thing, there's so many guys that fish out of the back of the boat, and I can't tell you, there's probably 10 guys that I could think of right off the top of my head, not mentioning any names, but guys that are, man, there's a lot of guys that should be, fishing out of the front of the boat this year, especially when, we're giving away, a Vexus at every event. There's no reason now for these guys to not step up and, jump in the front of the boat. And I know that there's a handful of them that are, but it would be nice to see, these 10 or 15 guys,
Yeah.
really, take a chance and do it. They've all got the ability, and and they can. I mean, there's guys out there that are fishing in the back of the boat that could be winning, some of these events. They're good, and yeah, it'd be neat to see them out there.
Yeah. I mean, I think the proms coming up are going to be amazing to see. And like you just said, the whole Vexus thing out there. I'll ask you a pertinent question. Keep or sell. Which one would you do if you won Shasta event? Vexus boat sitting there in the parking lot. It's not that far to your house from there.
I don't know. I've got my Phoenix now, but if I won that boat, I would probably keep it and have two.
Just so Erica has something.
Exactly. Exactly. So, no, I think having a boat like that would be, nice to have as a daily, run around boat, that I could use. But yeah, those Vexus boats, those aluminum boats are awesome.
Absolutely.
A buddy of mine in Clear Lake's got one, and I fish with him pretty often, and that boat is nice. The first time I got in that thing, I was like, yeah, I don't know, and man, then we took off and went through some rough water, and I was impressed. They're super nice boats, and yeah, I just think it's crazy that we're giving one away at every pro-am event. And to me, it's kind of mind-boggling, that we've gotten to that point, after 2 years. And yeah, it's yeah, I'd love to have one. I guess I'd have to build a bigger garage.
It's all right. You're looking for a whole new house, man. You may as well, you know what? I'm going to need a 5-car garage for this place, and it's going to change. It's going to change what you have to look for when you go.
That's part of the plan already. Yeah, big garage.
We talk about the upcoming year and how it's going to look, and we talk about the good fishing this time of year. Is this one of your favorite times of year to fish? Is in this cold weather when it's out there? I mean, you got the sniffles right now because of it, but
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's like, is fishing this time of year super fun? I mean, because there's a lot of people that's like, I ain't going out there if I can't be in shorts and a t-shirt. Is this a good time of year to fish?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite times to go, and especially when the water's doing what it's doing. Those lakes like Pedro and Orville, Shasta. When the water's coming up like it is right now, you can't pass up going down and fishing. Those lakes, especially when a tournament's coming, and you got to go fishing. I mean, I know them well enough when the water's doing what it's doing now to I think I can I can excel. So yeah, as long as the water and the conditions are right, absolutely love fishing this time of year. And even on my home water at Almanor, I never get to fish in December. No, I can fish through November, but December it's too cold. The ramps are normally iced over, have snow on them, and you can't get out there. And I was blown away,
Yeah.
to be able to go out there in December. And I had two of the biggest bags of my year
Hmm.
now, one in November and one in December.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a fun fall for sure, and going into winter. So yeah, winter time's it's my jam. I love it. I love fishing the spring too, and and up here, I'm a summertime guy up here too. I like getting out there when it's hot. Guys can't catch them up here, and
Mm.
when the water's calm and it's hot, and it's one of my favorite times to catch big ones. I've got them figured out pretty good, and it's topwater season.
It's the moment when everything is on the line and precision, power, and control make all the difference. A moment over 20 years in the making, anchored on loyalty, trust, and support that goes beyond all expectations. A relentless pursuit of perfection. All born from a revolutionary idea to help you rule the water. Power Pole.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it's one of those things that I feel like summer is when a lot of people want to go fishing. But like you said, it gets pretty tough, and it is a little tougher to go out there and catch big fish in the summer. I feel like the summer really shines for that, pound and 3/4 to 2 pounder. That's like that's their jam. They bite a lot, they eat a lot, they're hungry, they feed up, and trying to get those bigger fish in the summertime. I feel like it's a lot easier right now to get bigger fish. Between now and maybe April, it's one of the better times to go out and catch some good quality fish, right? 4, 5, 6 pounders.
Definitely. We're between now and April, and you know, into August through November, my two favorite times to fish.
Mm.
Um, yeah, in wintertime can be good too. It all depends on where you are, but that summertime, I try and stay away from those, Highland Reservoir lakes. I just, you just like you said, you go down there and catch those cookie cutter 1.5, 1.6, 1.7s all day long, and it's so tough to catch a 3 pounder. Every now and then you
Yep.
can catch them, but I know I need to talk Mark into switching this Shasta tournament to April. I mean, that would be so much fun,
Yeah.
it's sitting there that time of year. But it seems to be a good time of year to be there. And I think it puts everybody on a even, level playing field when we go in January. You just never know. I mean,
Yeah.
you could stumble on one point and, pull 20 pounds off of it. They're just those fish are in wintertime mode. And, when the water comes up like it is now, they eat. So, um, I can't wait to see what happens in a few weeks when we're there. I think you're going to see some big bags.
I'll see all of them. It's one of the questions I need to ask because everybody always wants to know this. Wintertime, cold, nasty. What is your number one go-to bait? What should everybody have tied on this time of year?
If I had to pick one bait,
One bait.
if I had to pick one bait, I'd have a jig tied on.
Okay.
Yeah,
Marty Lawrence the heck out of this thing.
I if I had to pick one, it would be a jig. I'm a big jig guy, so it's that's my go-to. You know,
Okay.
it just catches fish everywhere all the time. And in the wintertime, it excels.
Yeah. They're out there. Are you trying to make it look like anything other than a crawdad, or you just
I switch it up all the time. I mean,
okay?
I've done crazy things with jigs, just to throw something at them that's different. And there's so many baits out there that are different now, and I modify them. I mean, I color things, I cut things up, I do all kinds of crazy things. But yeah, and A lot of guys like throwing, dead stick and big jigs, and I like throwing, smaller profile tungsten jigs, big
Okay.
trailers. And that's kind of my setup.
Well, Mark, this is the time of the evening of the show here where um I give you about 10 minutes of time, man. Everybody just listen to you, talk a little bit about who you are, a little bit about how you fish, what you're going to be doing, what it's going to look like for this year. But maybe nobody knows who you are. I think most people do, but this is your time to, man, to thank your sponsors, talk a little bit about who you are, how people can get a hold of you, how people can get on the boat with you and go fishing. So I turn the mic over and say, Mark, tell everybody who Mark Pilgrim is.
Yeah, been fishing the Super 60 and the Bam Pro-Ams, now the second year. This will be our third year. And, I guide up at Lake Almanor, have a guide service up here. You guys can get a hold of me, 530-249-3810, or Mark Pilgrim Pro Angler. That Mark Pilgrim Pro Angler will take you to my socials, Instagram, Facebook, my my website. If you guys want to take a trip up to Lake Almanor, you're looking for some big smallmouth, give me a call, and yeah, I'll get you out on the water. Yeah, I'm super excited to get into this 26 season and see what I can do out there, against these new guys, that are up and coming and kicking all over our butts. I think that a lot of us are changing our tactics and doing some different stuff, and I think next year is gonna, be really good for me. And yeah, super excited to get out there. I couldn't do it without number one, you guys. BAM is definitely the premier, circuit here in the West. If you guys aren't signed up to fish pro-ams, get signed up and go do it. Jump on the boat as a co. I think it's like, I don't know, $400, $490 or something to fish as a co this year. You guys pay the 490, jump on a boat and catch some fish. And number one, learn, and yeah, this is the year to do it. This circuit is growing. It's getting so big right now that if you don't do it now, it's going to be tougher and tougher to get in. So get signed up, and got to thank my sponsors. Number one, Arch Oil, which Ed gives me crap about all the time.
I do
It seems
not.
that I'm kind of out there all over the place right now, and it's great for exposure. And they're my key sponsor. They're my title for last year and this year. I just signed with them again. And Shields has been, so good to me the last 2 years. Phoenix Boats, Mercury Marine, Big Bite Baits, and GSM Outdoors. Just signed with them again this last week, and super excited for that. Yozuri, P-Line, and Gets It. Everyone, it's like everyone hates a Gets It, right? But everyone throws them. Yeah, Gets It. I've been with Gets It for years. Lake Almanor Boat and RV Storage, Plumas Pines, up here at Lake Almanor. If you guys are in Lake Almanor, got to stop by there and grab a burger and a beer. Diversified Resources, my very first sponsor. They were the first person that ever wrote me a check, and they're still with me. Great people. And Almanar Ace Hardware, Dobbins Rods. I just picked up another sponsor this year through Les Schwab Tire Center, and that's Current Tire Center out of Quincy, California. If you guys are looking for some tires, and you're driving through Quincy, stop by and see Chris. He'll hook you up. Yeah, just super thankful to be on the show again. Sorry, I've got a little bit of a cold. You guys have to deal with my throat, but yeah, can't wait to get after it this year. And I think the first Super 60 event is March 20th. So make sure you guys follow along on BAM and check that out. And if you guys are at ISE, what is it? January 15th through the 18th, Sacramento, swing by the BAM booth, come by, say hello, take a picture, get an autograph, and just chat. If you guys have a question about a rod, a bait, any kind of tackle that you're questioning, stop by and ask one of the anglers, and we'll hook you up and you know, tell you how to throw it, how to use it, how to catch fish with it.
Nice. All right, Mark, man, great job. Talking so much about what's coming up this next year, talking about fishing out here on the West Coast and where it's going to go from there. Yes, January 15th, 16th, there's 16th, 17th, 18th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. Who knows? That's just going to be out there. We'll all be out there. And it'll be a good event. I can't, and it should be fun, and I'm looking forward to this next year. But I want to say, most of all, thanks, Mark, for coming on and doing the last show of the year, man. It was great. I hope we get to talk to you. One of my things is that when you win a tournament, you get to get on the show. Absolutely. I call you the next day and we start chatting it out and getting ready for the show to come out. So, Mark, I hope we get you on this year, at least a little bit more, win some events out there, have some fun, and let's just make this thing a little bit better next year. And anybody out there that's listening right now, I'll always say this: if you didn't get anything out of this episode, go back and listen again. You'll get something out of it. Mark, thank you again for doing this, and I really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon, man. Can't wait to see you.
Thanks, Ed. Good talking to you.